The PIOJ, one of its responsibilities is to be instrumental in conceptualizing economic projects, right? Policies and projects. Can you speak to any projects that are currently in train or have been recently approved or completed?
Sure, thank you. So, good question. We a lot of what we're seeing now in terms of the road work, those are projects in train now, and some monies were received. Funding support came in some time ago, and we are seeing that rolled out and implementation. And somebody would wonder, well, why so much in a short time? And part of that was that you want to utilize, as particularly when you have investor support, there's a timeline in which we need to have implementation. And so a lot of those projects come under what we call the Major Infrastructure Development Program, MIDP. And that's infrastructure, overall infrastructure build out in the country. So that's one game-changing project, you think, that is underway. And people always wonder about the nature of investment is such that it will cost you initially. Even if it's human capital, your education and training will cost you. But you will undertake that cost and that process because of a promise for higher returns later. Somebody say, why would I take out a student loan? Why would I do that? Because the hope is and the expectation is that by being trained, by utilizing, by accessing schooling, and particularly at the tertiary level, and so is that I will be in a position to earn sufficiently that I can easily pay off the loan and enjoy a livelihood based on those earnings. And so in the same way that investment, there's an outlay, there's a cost now, you expect a benefit, a greater benefit later. In infrastructure development, all the road work, people say, boy, it's the congestion and the traffic, and is there lost productivity? We said, truly there's a cost to what's happening now, but the expectation is that the benefit will outweigh, the future benefit will outweigh, far outweigh the cost now. And so when you have greater road network and connectivity, and you think of transportation costs and overall transaction costs being reduced, and that's part of the efficiency gains that when you look at countries, if you can get from the airport to a location, a business location, a conference center, a hotel in a relatively shorter time, what it means. If you can get from point A, one business location to another, what does that mean? If you can get from the port to another, a business location. So the transportation costs reduce, and that is huge in terms of cost savings, and that's the promise you expect. Just for people to get from home to work, or their places of residence to work and back in a relatively shorter time. That is the expectation. All of these things add up, and it costs, the cost savings are expected to be phenomenal. And so, that's a positive. And so we expect that huge payoff later. Some projects in the pipeline, quite a bit, as you think, and so we think of immediately when in the agriculture sector, you hear stakeholders there complaining about irrigation being their number one challenge. And so one of the projects, well, two projects that we have approved in what we call the public sector investment pipeline of projects, those public sector initiatives, one is a Essex Valley irrigation project in the Essex Valley in the western end of the island, where we're considered the breadbasket in the St. Elizabeth, some of those regions, some of the rich agricultural areas for production, that to establish irrigation facilities there. Huge project supported by the Caribbean Development Bank and the EU, and very promising, and that's in train, and a lot is being prepared in terms of implementation ongoing now. And following that is a similar irrigation project in South Clarendon and South St. Catherine, again to bring irrigation facilities. And that's been heralded tremendous reception and response by stakeholders, saying, boy, for a long time they've been asking for that. I would say anecdotally, another area of investment is climate smart agriculture. Agriculture is a tremendous area for Jamaica, tremendous sector. A lot of livelihoods depend on the sector. A lot of households derive income from the sector. There's tremendous connectivity and impact to attendant sectors. The tourism sector relies a lot on agriculture, right? A lot of the manufacturing sector, there's a strong connection with the agricultural sector. So as we can improve production practices in the agricultural sector, and the types of practices that are resilient to climate impacts. So you're thinking of greenhouse technology, that we can, establish greenhouse production. The yields have been shown where we've been doing it in Jamaica to be impressive in terms of improvements. And there's a lot that happens that because of the greenhouse structure, you can withstand a lot of the elements. When you think of drip irrigation, when you think of establishing ponds with the pond liners and rainwater harvesting, where we can harvest our own from the rainfall that comes. It shouldn't be that we have periods of excess rainfall and then have another period of drought. And so you're seeing initiatives now to smooth out the supply of irrigation and water to the sector. So those are some of the practices we call the climate smart agricultural practices. Very promising, very engaging, and we're seeing initiatives in the pipeline to address those. We're seeing further build out in the tourism sector promised, and you're seeing where they're speaking of introducing the casinos in some locations in the sector, while establishing or while indicating and underscoring that Jamaica won't be a casino, you say destination, because you have some mass market tourism sectors in other jurisdictions that offer that broadly, and they're saying they're introducing it here in Jamaica, but it's not going to be very widespread, but you'll have locations where that is available, but underlying that is a rapid expansion, if you will, of room stock to house some of these things in the sector.